Hi everybody, this is Dr. V coming to you live from North Georgia. It's a beautiful sunny day in Georgia. Hope everybody is having an amazing day. So I like to start off by, of course, saying my disclaimer that I'm not a medical doctor and anything I discuss today is not medical advice. It's not been approved by the AMA, FDA, and any federal agency. And if you would like to know more information about the work that we do, I'm the founder of breastcancerconqueror.com and the 7 Essential System. So if you'd like more information about being empowered, about improving your health, please head to our website, breastcancerconqueror.com. So today we're going to be discussing 7 things that your oncologist will never tell you. Now, I want to start off by saying that I'm not anti-medicine, and I certainly feel that there's a place for medicine, for critical care, for emergencies, for certain situations. But when it comes to creating wellness and healing the body, certainly traditional medicine has a ways to catch up. So our focus is on evidence-based natural medicine. So what are the 7 things that your oncologist will never tell you? Well, this time I think I have it right, so the numbers are not backwards. Hooray! So number 1, did you know that only 5% of cancers are actually genetic? Now, I've got some little cheat sheets here so I can really give you some great information. In January of 2010, Time magazine came out with a great article called Your DNA is Not Your Destiny. And there they recognized that really the environment, our thoughts, our activities, the food we eat, the sleep or lack of sleep can actually have an effect on turning on cancer-promoting genes. And only 5 to 10% of cancers are literally genetic in nature, and even those can be manipulated and changed. So what are some of the things that can improve your genetic expression? Well, we now know with the study of epigenetics and nutrigenomics that we can change our gene expression. So for example, epigenetics means looking over the gene, and nutrigenomics looks at the effect of food on our genes. And last week I discussed the power of broccoli sprouts and sulforaphane, and that sulforaphane from the broccoli sprouts had the ability to turn on over 200 genes related to cellular defense. We also know that according to research by Dr. Dean Ornish, he's an amazing researcher and medical doctor, that took 2 groups of people, and he put one group of people on a high glycemic diet, lots of sugar, lots of carbs for 12 weeks. He took another group and put them on a low glycemic or low carb, low sugar diet for 12 weeks. And listen to this. After only 12 weeks, the people on the high glycemic diet had an increase of 62 genes related to disease in the body. On the flip side, those that had a lower glycemic, low carb diet for 12 weeks had a decrease in 71% disease-causing genes. So what does that tell you? That your food can have a huge impact on how your body expresses itself, so that your gene potential can actually change. Hey Jean, nice to see you. Lots of people on the call today. I'll try to answer some questions after, but let me get through this material because it's really awesome. All right, and according to research in the Pharmaceutical Research Journal, cancer is a preventable disease that requires major lifestyle changes. More than 10 million people are going to be afflicted with cancer worldwide, and according to their research, they found that lifestyle factors like smoking, fried foods, lots of red meat, alcohol, excessive sun exposure, environmental pollutants, infections, stress, obesity, physical inactivity, all those things affected the increase of cancer. So that tells you exactly how powerful the ability for you to change your gene expression is. So only 5 to 10% of cancers are actually genetic in nature, and cancer is a very preventable disease. So since only 5 to 10% of cancers are actually genetic in nature, then what does that tell you? That tells you that you have a large measure of control over your own health by taking responsibility for your health. And I've coached women in over 21 countries, and one question that I often posed to them was this: why do you think you develop breast cancer? Why do you think you've had cancer, period? And if you sit quietly for 10 to 15 minutes and ponder on that question, the answer will come to you, because you know on some level that you've had a contribution in creating that cancer in your body. So if you've had a contribution or a hand in creating it, then how about if you have a hand in healing your body and living in a way that can really help support your body and improve it to heal? Okay, here's the next point that an oncologist will never tell you: that chemotherapy is only 2% effective, and that only 1 in 100 people will actually benefit from chemotherapy. Now, where did I pull those numbers out? Well, the 1 in 100 was actually told to one of my clients. She was told that by her oncologist. She said, 1 in 100 people are going to survive chemotherapy and benefit from it. We don't know which one that's going to be. And so that's not very encouraging results. But the 2% survival rate comes from a study in the Journal of Clinical Oncology in December of 2004. For those of you who want to know the research, it's called The Contribution of Cytotoxic Chemotherapy to 5-Year Survival in Adult Malignancies. So this was done by the Department of Radiation Oncology in Sydney Cancer, in Northern Sydney Cancer Center. And what they did is they took over 150,000 people and they studied them over a 5-year period. And they found that out of the 154,000 people, actually it was almost close to 155,000, only 3,300 actually benefited from chemotherapy. So that led them to come to this conclusion that it was estimated that 2.3% benefited from chemotherapy in Australia, and 2.1% benefited from chemotherapy in the United States. And their conclusion was to justify the continued funding and availability of drugs in chemotherapy needs to be reevaluated, because obviously what they're doing is not working right. And again, I'm not against traditional medicine. If that feels right for you, and if you believe that that's going to help you, then by all means do it. And we all know people who've survived chemotherapy and they seem to be doing okay. But that just gives you more food for thought and gives you maybe the mind to start questioning and looking at things that you can do to support your body. Because remember that chemotherapy is going to kill the obvious tumors, but it will not do anything to affect the baby cancer cells and the stem cells and what was the root cause as to why you developed cancer in the first place. So the third thing that the oncologist will never tell you is that sugar feeds cancer cells. Wow, isn't that amazing? Walk into a chemotherapy suite or an oncologist's office, and what do you see? All kinds of candy bars, candies, soft drinks with lots of sugar. And if you ask the traditional oncologist, should I change my diet, or are there certain foods I should avoid while I'm doing these treatments or while I have cancer? 99% of them will say, don't worry about it. Eat what you want. Get some fat on you. Eat whatever you want. Lots of ice cream and breads and puddings and whatever's going to put on weight. But what they don't tell you is that cancer cells have more insulin receptor sites on their cell wall compared to a healthy cell. So when it comes to sugar, cancer cells get fed first. Now, how do we know that? Well, if you've ever heard of PET scans, we know that people get injected with radioactive glucose. They sit in a room for about 30 minutes, and then they run them through the scan. And what lights up first? The cancer cells. right? We know, according to research done way back in the early 1900s, Dr. Otto Warburg, who won a Nobel Prize for this, he discovered that cancer cells do not breathe oxygen like we do, like our healthy cells do, but cancer cells rely on glucose and fermentation in order to grow. So they're a mutated type of cell that uses a different kind of system in order to feed their body. So sugar is the primary food by which cancer cells grow. So by all means, if you have cancer, please, please, please avoid sugar, any type of refined carbohydrates, and if you're really brave, cut back on as many grains as you can. Even limit things like quinoa or millet because they are high carbohydrate. So limit the carbs if you're on a healing journey or if you want to prevent cancer. Now, the fourth thing that your oncologist will never tell you is that radiation and chemo increase circulating tumor cells and stem cells. Now, again, I'm not an oncologist, I'm not a medical doctor, I'm just giving out information, and I'm not trying to make anybody feel bad if they are down that path, but I'm giving you information and things for you to think about. Now, we know, according to the research done at Stanford School of Medicine, and I quote, "Shrinking a cancerous tumor may offer temporary relief, but it will not offer a long-term cure if the cancer stem cells are not eliminated." So what are cancer stem cells? So what happens when you have traditional medicine, like chemotherapy and radiation? It may kill the large visible tumor in those cells, but it's not going to affect the baby cancer cells or the stem cells or the tumor initiating cancer cells. It's actually going to increase their resistance and cause them to be more difficult to kill with more chemotherapy and more radiation. And we know that stem cells are responsible for migration and for metastasis. So it's very important to be able to address that. So yes, get rid of that big tumor if you want, but you have to address the cause as to what allowed that cancer to develop in the first place. So what can you do to address some of those cancer stem cells? Let's say you've gone through traditional medicine and you want to make sure that you address that. Well, there's good news, of course. Natural medicine, evidence-based natural medicine has a lot of proof to show us that it can affect those cancer stem cells. So sulforaphane from broccoli sprouts, there again, one of my favorite foods. It really can kill the breast cancer stem cells. Curcumin, we talked about that last week as well. It turns off inflammation and turns on your protective genes. Something as simple as ginger. Ginger has been proven to target and kill cancer stem cells. So a very important food to have in your diet and to supplement with. Fermented soy in the form of a product called Halen, H-A-E-L-A-N. It's been a product that's been used from the 1980s. It was developed in China, and yes, it is non-GMO and very organic and very powerful when it comes to healing breast cancer because it helps to turn on and inhibit the breast cancer stem cell production. Now, how do you know if you have genes that are turned on that are creating breast cancer stem cells? Or how do you know how many circulating tumor cells you may have in your body? That's a great question. Well, fortunately, we have a test called the Greece test, like the country of Greece. It's also known as the RGCC test. And basically, the blood is drawn, the sample is flown to Greece. There it's analyzed to measure the number of circulating tumor cells as well as the stem cell markers. And that will give you an idea as to how active perhaps the cancer is. Then they can actually test those cancer cells that you've sent in the blood and determine if natural extracts and even some chemotherapy agents, they'll test 50 of each, natural extracts, 50 chemo, and will tell you, come up with a report and show you which agents, the natural or the chemo, are most effective against your cancer. So it's a great test to have. You can learn more about that on our website at breastcancerconqueror.com, and just put under blog, just go to the search bar and just put in grease tests, and you'll be able to learn more about it. And you can email us at support@breastcancerconqueror.com if you'd like to learn more information about it. Now, what's the next thing that your oncologist will never tell you? That nutritional supplements improve survival rates. Now, the traditional doctor will tell you, don't do anything different, eat what you want, don't take supplements when you're doing chemotherapy. However, studies have shown us, again, this is evidence-based, I'm not just pulling things out of my hat, but studies have shown us that specific nutrients can have a very positive effect while you're going through chemotherapy, in order to help you manage the side effects of it, as well as reduce your tumor load. So according to researchers, ginger, for example, I mentioned, is 10,000 times more effective at killing cancer stem cells than conventional chemotherapy such as Taxol. Here's another very interesting report, and last week I talked about the importance of vitamin D. Please, please, please make sure you have your vitamin D levels. Just this week, one of our clients had a vitamin D level of 17, when ideally it should be 75 to 90, 80 to 90. That's the nice, healthy therapeutic range. But according to this study in the Clinical Breast Cancer Journal in 2015, they found that improved clinical outcomes were associated with vitamin D supplementation. Now, why isn't your oncologist telling you that? Every oncologist in this country should be saying, should be testing you for your vitamin D levels, and should be making sure that you're taking vitamin D to help you improve your outcome. Now, another thing that your oncologist will never tell you is that low inflammation markers improve your survival. Now, what the heck are inflammation markers? Well, first of all, we know that inflammation is the root cause of all disease, whether it's arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, immune disorders, cancer, you name it, it all starts with inflammation. So where does inflammation start? Well, it starts with your lifestyle, it starts with your stress, it starts with the food that you're eating, the chemicals that you're exposed to, the amount of electropollution you're exposed to. All these things can cause stress and inflammation in the body. But there's a specific marker called high-sensitive CRP, so HS-CRP. Now, this used to be thought of as a cardiac inflammatory marker. They tested that to see if people had suffered a heart attack. But now they've noticed, according to a Danish study, that when they followed over 10,000 people, that they concluded that high levels of CRP was also associated with an early death when it came to cancer. Specifically concerning breast cancer, an elevated CRP, C-reactive protein, is associated with a reduced survival rate. So this is a simple blood test that you can have your medical doctor run for you. You can also check it out on our website, and you can see what your levels are as far as C-reactive protein. If you have high levels, that's an indication there's lots of inflammation in the body. How do you lower inflammation? Simple solution, the 7 essential system. And that's something that I've trademarked and is like my signature program. And basically it's 7 basic steps: nutrition, detoxification, balancing your energy, healing your emotional wounds, making sure that your mouth is clean, free of heavy metals. Number 6 is to look at specific nutrients to help you heal your body. And number 7 is keeping a pulse on your health with early detection and several tests to make sure you are, in fact, cancer-free. So very important test to know about: CRP, and ask your doctor to have that tested. Other things you can do to lower your inflammatory markers: curcumin, EGCC, which is the polyphenol that's found in green tea, but specifically drink lots of matcha tea, because matcha is equivalent, 1 cup of matcha green tea is equivalent to 10 cups of regular green tea as far as the number of polyphenols and antioxidants. Extremely potent. Lots of magnesium, trace mineral, which we talked about last week. Vitamin D3 lowers CRP. And zinc, something as simple as zinc, which is a trace mineral that most of us are deficient in because we eat deficient food, that's nutrient deficient. And so zinc has a great effect on lowering inflammation and improving your immune system. So there's a simple tip that your doctor will never tell you. And I think the last thing we're going to talk about that your oncologist will never tell you: meditation and emotional healing will actually help you get better. Now, when was the last time you walked into a traditional doctor's office and he wrote a prescription that said, make sure you meditate 30 minutes every day? That's not going to happen. However, it's very important, as I discussed in essential number 4 in healing your emotional wounds, it's very important for you to understand that your mind is a powerful, powerful healing tool. I've been reading a book called The Placebo Effect. And, what is a placebo? The placebo is basically something that a doctor will give you. It's a sugar pill, and that has no substances in it. It's inert. But they'll tell you, take this pill and it's going to make your pain go away. Or take this pill and it'll help you feel better. We've all heard of some of these studies. I'll give you an example of one. Dr. Mosley in Texas, renowned knee surgeon, who took different subjects and they were, getting ready for knee surgery. So some of them he did the actual surgery, some of them he just washed out their knee, and another group he did absolutely nothing. He just cut them open, stitched them back up, and did absolutely nothing. Well, guess what? The ones who had absolutely nothing done had better outcomes than the ones who had the surgery or had the lavage in the knee. So what does that tell you? They believed that they were getting a support system. They believed that they were getting something that was going to help them feel better, and so they did. And I can list story after story of how powerful the placebo effect. How about the nocebo effect, the opposite side of that? What if, your doctor tells you, okay, you're going to get this injection, it's going to make you really, really sick. Well, guess what? People buy into that and they do get sick, even if it's just a saline injection. So think about what your doctor may be telling you. And in his book, in the book that I'm reading, The Placebo Effect, he makes the good point. What if that diagnosis that the doctor gives you and the prognosis and tells you you only have a 10% chance to live because of this, or you're a certain stage and you're doomed to die? Well, what does that do to your psyche? What does that do to your heart? What if on the opposite side he said, statistically maybe we've seen this, but I know outside of traditional medicine, if you changed your eating habits, if you moderated your stress, and if you did good things for yourself, the probability of you getting better is pretty high. How would you feel walking out of that doctor's office? So a huge difference in how you think about your healing. Another important factor to think about when it comes to healing your heart and meditation and calming down your body is to look at the effect on your nerve system. Most of us, I would probably say 99% of us, feel stressed. We live in a stressful world. Stuff happens. We move at a fast pace. How do we moderate that? And what happens when our body feels like it's under stress? Well, we were designed with a system called the sympathetic nerve system, the fight or flight reaction, that if we're being chased by a tiger or a bear, then we would be ready to go. However, we stay hooked up in that fight or flight system too long. That's the accelerator in our nerve system. But what we need to learn to do is to balance that with the parasympathetic system, the calming system, where you can breathe and you can sit for 30 minutes and read a very positive book, or close your eyes and meditate, pray, think about the kind of life that you want to have. See and feel yourself healing your body, because those very thoughts can turn on your protective genes. In fact, there was a study done, let's see, where was that study done? In the journal Cancer, they did a recent study, and they found that people who meditated for about 30 minutes a day and sat quietly and took long, deep, regulated breaths, they found that the little telomeres at the end of their DNA actually increased in length, and it improved their survival rate. So they were basically, their mind was telling their body how to heal, and it was turning on those cancer protective genes. So don't limit yourself to thinking all you have to do are physical things. And I'm guilty of that, because when I went through my healing journey, 10, 11 years ago, I was really good at taking my supplements and juicing and doing all that stuff. But I realized that I was missing a huge piece of the puzzle, and that was looking at my emotional wounds, looking at what I needed to do in order to heal my body and to get quiet and to really slow your life down. And if there's one thing that you can take away from this presentation, is that I just urge you to really take that time, because if you keep doing the things you've always done, guess what? You're going to get the same results. And going through a healing journey is not just about getting rid of the lump or the bump. Going through a healing journey is about healing your body, healing your life, healing your relationships, getting connected on a spiritual level and really changing things. Because again, if you just keep doing the same things, you're gonna get the same results. If you expect a different result when doing the same things, guess what? That's insanity. And we know that Einstein said that in order to get different results, we have to come at it from a different mindset, from a different consciousness. So please take that time, and I encourage you to head to my website, breastcancerconqueror.com. There's a lot of information there for you to glean. I've got a great book called Heal Breast Cancer Naturally. We're getting ready to work on the second edition for 2017, because there's lots of updates. But if we can support you in any way, please email us, support@breastcancerconqueror.com, and let us know how we can support you. We've coached women in 21 countries so far, and are very humbled and very blessed by the outreach of all these powerful women around the world. I always attempt to answer all your questions. I may not get to all of them like on the event right now, but I will try to get to them as much as I can, and I will answer them on Facebook, on my Facebook fan page, if I don't get to them today. So let's see if I can answer a couple of questions here before we leave. Hi, Jana. Hi, Lynn. Thanks, everybody. Anne Marie. So would you consider doing a private Facebook group so that we could ask questions that we wouldn't want the public to see? That's a great point. And I actually do have a couple of private Facebook groups. One of them is called Heal Breast Cancer Naturally. That's a closed group. And for those of you that are clients, then we have a Healing Divas private Facebook group, and so that's a great way to have your questions answered. Hi, Linda. Hi, Jean. Hi, Sandy. And yes, please share the video, share this event with people. I'm really amazed. I was a little nerdy about getting this tech information done and Facebook Live. I'm not techie at all. But once we started doing it, the response has been great, and thank you for sharing this information. Hi, Patricia. Nice to see you. So Kathy, would you share your references? Absolutely. If you go to my website, everything that I talked about today is on my website, and you can look at all the references, the links. That's one thing I'm very adamant about, is that what I talk about is based on evidence. And in my book, for example, there's over 500 published studies based on natural medicine, and you can find those at the National Library of Medicine, or pubmed.org. You're welcome, Linda. Let's see, Jane. What do you do when you've been eating well, living well, organic, and still get breast cancer? That's what my oncologist can answer. Jane, that's an awesome question, and that's what I was faced with. In 2004, I had the world by the tail. I had a very successful practice. I'd been in practice for 25 years. I was, superstar, Dr. V, had 3 wonderful children, and I was helping people literally from around the world. People were flying in to come see me, because the protocol that we had designed was really getting some amazing results with all kinds of disease. Yet I ended up with breast cancer. How was that possible? Well, that's the rabbit hole and the soul searching that I had to do. And what I came to realize is that I was missing pieces of the puzzle. I was not nurturing myself. I was a machine. I was super doc. I was, on the go all the time. I ate organic before organic was in style. I took supplements. I did all those things, but I found out that I was sensitive to electropollution. I had some dental issues that needed to be addressed. I was iodine deficient. My thyroid and my breast tissue needed support. So there's a lot of things that perhaps you're missing, Jane, and we're happy to help you find that out by looking at our 7 essential system. Hi, Christine. Hi, Jean. Jane again. Do I have an opinion on Herceptin? Sorry, I don't. I'm not an oncologist, and I don't like to talk about traditional medicine. Best for you to do your your own research to get that information. Let's see. I'm likely refusing chemo. What is your opinion of tamoxifen? Well, there's a great blog on my website that discusses the effects of tamoxifen. Most women don't realize that tamoxifen has been classified as a class 2 carcinogen, according to the World Health Organization and according to the American Cancer Society. So that being said, does it make sense to take a carcinogen to prevent cancer? And unfortunately, I've talked to women who have developed secondary cancers as a result of that. And that brings us to the topic, do your hormones cause cancer? And that's a whole other topic that we can discuss at another time. But really, if your hormones drove the cancer, Rochelle, then every 20-year-old on the planet would have cancer right now. So we know that your hormones ultimately are not responsible for cancer. It is all the environmental and chemical estrogens that we're exposed to, among some other issues. So hope that answered your question a little bit. You're welcome, Sarah. So somebody asked, Anne-Marie, what are the blood tests that show floating tumors or cancer stem cells? That's the RGCC blood test. It's called the Grease test, and you can read about it on my website. Vesna, yes, you were told that tamoxifen causes cancer. You're absolutely right. Hi, Shelley. Lots of other people on here. Hey, Barbara, here's a question. Had stage 1 estrogen positive bilateral breast cancer this year, treated with lumpectomy and radiation. About 4.5 months later on tamoxifen, I stopped it. Well, that's a brave thing for you to do. Thank you for sharing your story. Make sure that you change your lifestyle. Make sure that you look at the 7 essential system and you do things differently so that the cancer doesn't reoccur, because you have to ask yourself, what ultimately caused the cancer in the first place? We're not just victims of cancer, but there is a cause behind it. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you for sharing my video so much. I appreciate it. Krismira, what about test main track? I'm not real familiar with that, but please feel free to give me more information. Thank you for sharing. Lots of shares today. Barbara also has autoimmune and Hashimoto's. That's a kind of a complication. However, Hashimoto's is an indication that there may be some iodine deficiency. There's obviously autoimmune. Why is your body attacking your thyroid? And it's getting back to the root cause of what's causing cancer. Thank you, Lisa, for sharing. Thank you, Jane. Oh, Jane, just great that you're working with the naturopathic doctor, and that makes a huge difference. And for sure, don't feel like you're the Lone Ranger. Whether you work with us or whether you work with many other integrative doctors out there, there's more and more doctors out there that are doing this. So please don't feel like you have to be alone. Ulicia, thank you for sharing. Claude, appreciate you. Caitlin, thank you. Cheryl, I appreciate all your positive comments. Sonia, thank you. Can you discuss your opinion on vitamin C? I was told not to take it, but I know others that take it by IV. So again, Cheryl, I've got a great blog on vitamin C and vitamin C IVs. Very, very powerful therapy. In fact, there's a clinic called the Riordan Clinic that has 35 years of clinical research on the effectiveness of high-dose vitamin C therapy. So very, very powerful. Thank you, Dawn. Appreciate it. Lots of comments. Thank you. Andre, great broadcast again. Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody. You know, it may not seem like it, but I'm basically a shy, reserved person, though, so this is kind of hard for me to put myself out there, but it's not about me, it's about you, and I'm very, very passionate about being able to share my information because I know how helpful it can be, and I don't want you to feel alone, and that's one of the things that so many women come to us for, because they feel like the Lone Ranger. Well, we don't want you to feel that. We want you to feel like that there's a community that can support you and give you answers and let you know that other women around the globe are experiencing the same thing and are seeing some very positive and amazing results. So thank you for all your love.